Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another episode of A View from Tracy's Point. And today we are recapping Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 9, Episode 9, which was entitled Char-Lotta Drama. So the show opens with Kenya and Cynthia, and they're taking their dogs out for like a doggy date, I guess. And so they're at this place, and Kenya's giving her dog a bath. I guess she paid these people to, I don't know what was going on because I'm not a animal lover. So I don't know how this whole thing works, but they were doing something there with their dogs that it seemed like they could have did at the house. So anyway, she's telling Cynthia, trying to talk about Matt and her dad coming and talking to Matt and all of this stuff. And Cynthia was really sitting there looking as disinterested as probably the rest of us were looking. So then we learned that Peter has a new club opening in Charlotte called Club One, and that he has asked Kenya to be the hostess for the evening, or to host the opening or something. And so Cynthia looks really surprised. I guess she didn't know about the opening because Peter didn't invite her. And so Kenya takes it upon herself to invite Cynthia, basically saying that she won't take no for an answer. And so Cynthia, she knows she really wanted to go, and she's like, well, I guess I'll be crashing Peter's opening. Yeah, girl, you want to go and check that out. While Cynthia and Kenya are at the little doggy spa place, whatever it was, we have a scene with Peter and Todd, and I think they were at a car dealership. And so Peter is telling Todd to invite Matt to come to the opening with him. And so of course and then of course Todd says okay. And then we go to Candy and Todd, and so Candy, lets us know that she won't be attending Peter's grand opening because that's the same night as her Bedroom Candy convention. And I didn't know that Bedroom Candy was that big where they're having a convention, but basically Candy's saying that she pays the people. So I guess it's sort of like the little sex toy parties that they have, like the pleasure party and all that. And people have parties in their homes or at the homes of other people, and they get like a commission. And I think Candy says she pays like a 60% commission on the Bedroom Candy stuff. So I think that's pretty good. And so Todd shows Candy a picture that was posted on Instagram or something, and so it was from one of her employees, a guy named Johnny, but the picture was of Candy and all of her, I guess, employees or whatever, and he was basically throwing shade at Candy, saying that she was fake and phony. So Candy didn't appreciate that at all, and she lets us know that it's actually the guy Johnny who's doing the event planning for the convention that she's doing, and how since he no longer works for her, that she's given him all these jobs, these event planning jobs, and that she's constantly throwing business his way. So she has to talk to him about the post and find out what's really going on behind it. So Candy changes the subject, and she lets Todd know about she went and had lunch with Portia and Sheree, and basically telling him that she didn't appreciate how Portia was coming at her, trying to defend Phaedra, and that she pretty much tried to put Portia in her place. And so instead of Todd telling her to be the bigger person and not let these women get under her skin, of course he goes and he co-signs with her and gossiping with her, which I'm thinking, do men really do that? Like, I wouldn't want a man that would sit there and gossip with me about my friends or former friends or whatever. And so then we go to Portia, and her brother Hosea is coming over to help her do the last of her packing. And Portia lets us know that her lease has ran out and she has yet to find a new home, so she'll be moving in with her mom, which I'm not sure that's a good idea, because when we see Portia later in the show, she's sneaking her boyfriend Todd into her mother's house at night, and you could tell that Todd was really uncomfortable. And I'm thinking I was uncomfortable too, because this is stuff that you do when you're like 18, 19 years old, when you think you're grown but you're not out on your own, and so your boyfriend might sneak you into the house, into his mom's house. But Portia, you too old for this. And so then pulls out that Yanni egg, and so she's telling him about, you know, the exercises and how her vagina has really tightened up since she's been using the egg. And so like I say, Todd is just very uncomfortable. So then she pulls out this satchel or something, and she's trying to set it on fire. So I don't know what that was all about. And so Todd was like, you know, what are you doing? And so she says, oh, don't worry, I turned the fire alarm off and disabled the fire detectors. I'm just like, Portia, oh my God, like seriously. So then she gets this whipped cream. Now when her brother was at the house earlier, she had that whipped cream, and she was like saying, oh my God, it's been sitting out on the counter and it's still good. But she had that whipped cream, and she was like putting it on the Yanni egg, and then she was trying to stick it into Todd's mouth, and he was like, no, I don't want that. And then I think at one point she fell out the bed, and then he fell out the bed, and I'm just like, get a room. You should not be doing this in your mom's house, girl. Like, what is wrong with you? We move on to Sheree. Did y'all know that Sheree had written a book? Like, am I the only person that didn't know that Sheree had wrote a book? Let me go Google this and see what this is all about. So then we have Sheree later on in the show, and she is at this obstacle course place. And like I said, I believe this is product placement, that these businesses are paying Bravo to be featured on their show. So she's playing this little workout date with Bob, and Bob shows up, and all I could think about was when they were doing the Kairos photo shoot, and how Bob was sweating and sweating and sweating, and I'm thinking, okay, this ain't gonna work out too good. But Bob really surprised me, because they had this one thing where it was like I'm thinking Bob is probably like 6'5" or something, so this wall had to be probably like 7 feet high, and Bob was able to jump up and put his hand on the 7-foot wall and then reach up to another wall and like pull his big body up onto this next platform. And then he asked them, you know, what do I do next? And they said, jump. So, you know, when he jumped off the wall, it wasn't a good look, because he didn't land right and he fell backwards. And I was like, oh my God. So, you know, Sheree goes and helped him up. And then her phone rings, and it was her book publisher. So she's trying to walk away from Bob, you know, so he can't hear her conversation, because one of the things she mentioned in the earlier scene when she was meeting with the editor was that she didn't tell anybody, you know, that she was writing this book, because she didn't want people to discourage her. So I can kind of understand that, you know, keep your dreams to yourself until you're ready to roll it out to the world, and only let the right people in, you know, to know what you're doing. So Bob, she finally, you know, Bob kept hounding her about, you know, who you talking to, who you talking to. So when she finally hung up the phone, she let Bob know that she did write the book, and kind of told him what the book was about, and was asking him, did he have anything that he wanted to contribute. And so Bob was like, no, you can't be putting the secrets out there. He says, but I'm really proud of you, but I do have my reservations, because this is the first time that you started something and didn't carry it through, which was a fair assessment, because, you know, a lot of times our friends and family, when we're always saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, they do tend to get weary when we never see anything to completion. So then we have Candy, and she goes down to the event center where her convention is taking place, and she it looks really nice, and like I said before, I didn't know it was as big as it is. And so she goes to talk to one of the vendors, and so the lady tells Candy that she has this new product, and so it was like this black thing that was shaped like a U, and she tells Candy that it was a same-sex dildo. So Candy was like, well, what is that? So then she goes to, so I guess it's like if two women are together and they want to pleasure them, I don't know. Anyway, so that's probably going to be rolling out on the Bedroom Candy product line. So then Candy goes over when she sees Johnny, and she confronts him about the social media posting that he made. And so Johnny, you know, is basically looking at her and was like, yeah, I made the post, you know, because that's how I was feeling. So then Candy just went from like 0 to 100 just like that, and just you know, how she was acting with Phaedra that day at the restaurant. That's kind of how she was going off on Johnny, and she was cursing and carrying on. I think she called him the MF and told him to kiss her behind and all this stuff. And I'm like, seriously, Candy? Like, you are being so unprofessional right now, and this really isn't a good look from the business standpoint of you as a businesswoman. And so the guy pretty much said that he was hurt because he thought that him and Candy were really close, and for her to dismiss him or fire him, but not, come to him and say, I'm letting you go and this is the reason why, she had Don Juan fire the guy. And I can only imagine how that went, because we know how messy Don Juan is, and he probably took great pleasure in letting the guy go. And so I understood Candy's point that I guess if Don Juan handles the employee, the human resources end of the business, then yes, he would have been the one to let the guy go. But I just thought the way that she handled the situation in that moment was just very unprofessional. And she was like, you can call me a bitch and you can call me a diva, but one thing you ain't gonna call me is fake, because I ain't fake. And then she kind of like walked off from the guy. And I'm just like, really, Candy? As this season goes on, I'm losing more and more respect for you. So then we go on to Phaedra, and Phaedra's having a meeting with her assistant, LaToya, when Johnny comes to the office and he tells the receptionist, I can't remember the guy's name, that he's there to see Phaedra. So the guy goes back to Phaedra's office and he says, excuse me, but there's a Johnny Winston here to see you. And then Phaedra's like, Johnny Winston? Who is that? And so then LaToya says, oh, he has an appointment with you. And then Phaedra said, okay, well, if he has an appointment, let him on back. So then when the guy comes in, Phaedra's like, boy, I don't know you by your government name. What is you here for? So I thought that was funny. And so then the guy comes in and he sits down. And so he tells Phaedra that he wants to sue his former employer. And then Phaedra's looking at him all confused, like, well, ain't Candy your former employer? I thought y'all was, thick as thieves. And so the guy started telling Phaedra how, Phaedra picked up a check, and she said, okay, so what's these copies of these checks for $500? And so the guy said that that was his paycheck. And so Phaedra said, well, what was this for, like 2 days? You work 2 days a week? And then he said, no, that was for the full week. And she said, well, how many hours did you work? And so he said that sometimes he would work up to 80 hours a week. And I'm going to tell you guys, I can believe that he was working those many hours and making that little money. And I'm going to tell you why, because I used to work at a church, and I think I mentioned that before, and I was part-time working 20 hours a week, and then I had another position where I was working 25 hours a week. However, there were times when I was there like 40, 50 hours a week, but I still got paid for them 20 hours and then them 25 hours. And I think what happens with like with myself and with the Johnny guy, is that if you really like what you're doing and you're passionate about what you're doing, you tend to give more than you should. And in the end, the person that you're giving to, or the people that you're giving to, they never appreciate what you're doing. And so I can believe when he says that he was working all those hours and Candy wasn't paying him for it. And so then he went on to tell Phaedra about how he used to do all these different things with Candy and for Candy, and that he thought that the reason Candy let him go was because he started talking about how he wanted to do this event, the event planning business. And so he felt, I think if I'm understanding it correctly, was that Candy fired him so that she could then use him for the event planning, get the hookup for the event planning. And then he also mentioned that him and Candy had been out looking at restaurants, because they were going to open a restaurant together. And then the next thing he knew, Candy came and said that her and Todd were going to do a restaurant. So I think he's kind of feeling like Candy stole some of his ideas and he wants to get paid for it. And then I was so happy when Phaedra said that, I can't represent you. I'm happy that I don't handle employment law, but I'll find somebody to help you, because the last thing we need is for Phaedra to be representing this guy and get into more foolishness with Candy. But I did love when she said to him that, slavery ended 150 years ago. And Phaedra's like, Candy over there running a plantation. And I'm just like, oh my Lord. But Candy, if you did that boy like that, you're wrong for it. So I'm wondering if Cynthia has been assigned to be Kenya's friend, because it seems like the only time Kenya gets to be on the show now is if it's her and Cynthia doing something together, and then her only storyline on the show is this foolishness with Matt. And so I think they're in North Carolina, and they have like a suite or something. So here we go with the Matt drama, and Kenya is telling Cynthia, we can hear her phone like beeping or something, and then she runs out of her bedroom over to Cynthia's bedroom and brings Cynthia out, and she's telling Cynthia how Matt is going to be at the opening of Peter's restaurant, and that Peter had asked her if it was okay, and she said she was okay with Matt being invited, but then she changed her mind and thought it wasn't a good idea, so she told Peter to uninvite Matt, and then Peter canceled Matt's flight, and so I guess Matt was calling her to say that he was coming anyway, that he would just get in the car and drive. It was only a 3-hour drive. And so, Cynthia is looking at Kenya like, girl, you are too old for this foolishness, but I'm going to sit here and listen to you because that's what Andy told me I had to do, but on the outside, she said to Kenya, oh, girl, I'm sorry to hear this, and do you think he's dangerous and he's going to do anything, and all this other foolishness, are you sure you're going to be okay? So then Kenya decides that she's not going to go to the opening, that she's just going to back out. And so then Cynthia decides, well, she's going to go ahead and go, and then she'll let Peter know that Kenya couldn't make it. So I'm like, girl, like, are y'all serious right now? So we go over to Peter's club, and I must say that the club looked nice, and it really didn't look like filler people in the club. It looked like people, real customers that were there, and just the decor and everything was really nice. And so first we have Peter and Todd, and they're outside talking. And so they go inside, and you can tell that Todd is very envious, and he's looking around like he really wished that was the opening for the old lady gang. And can y'all tell me, is the restaurant open yet? Like, how is it? Was it worth all the wait and all the money that they put into it? And so when Cynthia walks in, Peter looks over at Cynthia, and he's like, damn, Cynthia looked like an ice cream cone. And I'm like, okay, was that vanilla ice cream with some chocolate swirl? Because Cynthia had on this real pretty white dress. And so when she comes over and greets Peter, she's thinking to herself, damn, Peter looking good. So let me find out them two hooked up after the show, after the grand opening was over with. So Cynthia lets Peter know that Kenya wasn't going to come, and kind of fills him in about the whole situation with Matt. And then she goes on to bring up about him being on the Wendy Williams show, and how she really didn't appreciate it. And so Peter was so unbothered. He was like, look, I went on the show, but I said nothing but good things about you. You ain't got nothing to worry about. And so then all of a sudden, Kenya sends Cynthia a text saying that, she changed her mind and decided to come, and that she's outside. So then instead of Cynthia going outside to greet Kenya or text Kenya back and say, bring your ass on in here, she tells Peter, oh, Kenya's outside. So Peter decides to go outside and look for Kenya, which was like very orchestrated. Nobody's buying this Kenya, by the way. So then as Peter goes out the door, we see Matt, and Matt's walking up to Kenya's, the SUV Kenya's in. And then Kenya's getting all frantic and like, oh my God, here he comes, and telling the driver, that's my ex-boyfriend. Don't let him come over here and bother me, and all this other crap. So then it kind of like the camera goes away, and so we can like hear a scuffle and knocking and somebody getting slapped, but we can't see who it is. And then Peter makes it over to Kenya, and then he's like, what's going on? And she's like, it was Matt, and he slapped my driver, he punched my driver. And then we see Matt, flying out of the damn parking lot. And so then, Peter's like, what the hell is going on? And so then we have a scene with Peter and Todd, and they are on the phone with Matt, asking Matt, what happened. And so Matt says that, I think he said Kenya told him to come over to that truck, or he saw Kenya or something. But anyway, when he got over there, he stuck his head in the window to see if it was Kenya, to talk to Kenya, and that the driver started rolling the window up on his neck. And he said, so I slapped his bitch ass. Oh my Lord, I need y'all to stop with the shenanigans. So anyway, Peter basically tells Matt that, he really needs to leave Kenya alone, that, Kenya's manipulating him and doing all the things that he's saying, that the best thing he can do is leave Kenya alone. So then Todd and Peter go inside to talk to Kenya and Cynthia, because of course Kenya has gone inside and she's crying to Cynthia about, how afraid she is and how terrified she is. And once again, Cynthia's sitting there looking at her like, girl, is this your life? Like, seriously, is this all we're gonna have to talk about every time we together, is how you letting this little young boy, abuse you or whatever the hell is going on, but Cynthia's sitting there like, oh, I'm so sorry that this happened. So when Todd and Peter, joined them, they don't co-sign Kenya, which I was so happy. They basically said, look, if he's not good for you and this is the way he's going to treat you, leave him alone. And we told him the same thing, like, it is time out for all of this. Let it go. You stay away from him and he stay away from you, and everybody will be fine. And that's it for me. That was the show. So let's see. For a question, do you guys believe, Johnny, that all those things really happened, that Candy was taking advantage of him in the workplace? And do you think that Phaedra did the right thing by passing the case along and trying to help him find another attorney that deals with employment law? Or should Phaedra have just said, I don't want nothing to do with this, go find your own attorney? So leave your comments below and go ahead and rate the video, share the video, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I hope everyone have a wonderfully blessed week, and until next time, bye-bye.